Listen to me carefully. If you've made it to 60, I need you to understand something deeply important, something that could completely change how you see the rest of your life. You're not reaching the end of your story. You're stepping into the most powerful chapter of your existence. And I'm going to show you exactly why. For your whole life, society has programmed you with a dangerous lie. They made you believe that turning 60 means stepping aside, becoming less important, and accepting that your time to grow or influence others is over. But that story isn't just false, it's deeply destructive. It's wasting one of the greatest forces we have in society, wisdom combined with experience. Our culture has built a toxic obsession with youth, and because of that, it throws away decades of hard-earned knowledge. People in their 60s are treated like outdated phones, as if they've expired, as if they no longer matter. But that way of thinking shows a deep misunderstanding of what human growth really is and what experience is worth. What society doesn't tell you is this. At 60, for the first time in decades, you hold something truly priceless, real freedom. And I'm not just talking about financial freedom or free time. I'm talking about something much deeper. The freedom that comes from no longer needing outside approval to define who you are. Think about that for a moment. For over 40 years, you've been in a race, rushing to build your career, rushing to raise your family, rushing to meet expectations, many of which were never really yours in the first place. But now that you've reached 60, something powerful happens. You finally have the chance to pause, to breathe, to ask yourself the most freeing question of all. What do I really want to do with the time I have left? That question doesn't mark the end of your importance. It marks the beginning of your most authentic and impactful season. You've been taught to measure success with speed, youth, looks, and productivity, but those standards are broken. They're shallow, especially at this stage of life. Success looks different. Real success now is about depth, the wisdom you've earned through decades of living. Your unique ability to see patterns that younger generations simply can't. Your insight into things they haven't even lived through yet. You've survived economic crashes. You've watched society shift. You've experienced loss that someone in their 30s can't even imagine. That's not a weakness. That's your strength. That's your power. Let me tell you a true story. Roberto, a man of 64, worked in banking for 35 years. When his company restructured, he took early retirement. At first, he felt lost, like the system had thrown him away, like he had no more purpose. But then he remembered something he used to love decades ago: photography. He started walking through his city, taking pictures of everyday moments. He began to document the lives of older people in his community, people like him. Over time, he became known for these photos. Today, at 68, his work is shown in local galleries. He even published a book celebrating the beauty and dignity of aging. Did he become rich? No, but he found something more valuable, real purpose. That's the key difference here. Roberto didn't start from zero. He started from wisdom, from knowing what truly mattered to him. And that's your biggest advantage at 60. You have both experience and perspective. But the world has tricked you into thinking you no longer matter. That's the lie. Here's the truth. The world needs people your age more than ever. We need people who have lived enough to not be fooled by every new trend. We need people who know the difference between what's urgent and what's important. We need mentors, not from universities or books, but from real life, from lived experience. But here's the hard truth. If you don't see your own value, how can you expect others to see it? Let me explain something basic but powerful about human nature. We're not biologically designed to become useless at 60. That idea is a modern invention, and it's wrong. Human beings are built to keep growing, learning, and contributing for as long as we live. The idea that you should retire from life at a certain age doesn't come from nature. It comes from a society that's forgotten how to respect age. You're not a leftover. You're not outdated. You're not past your prime. You are someone who has seen more, felt more, and learned more than most people ever will. And now, more than ever, the world needs your voice, your presence, your story. This is your moment, not to compete, not to go back, but to rise up as the version of yourself you've always been becoming. Your brain still has the power to form new neural connections, to learn new skills, and to create new realities. Neuroplasticity doesn't expire at 60. But here's the key. If you don't use that ability, you lose it. If you convince yourself that you can't learn anymore, then yes, you'll stop learning. If you believe you're no longer relevant, you'll start acting like you're not. Not because that's the truth, but because you chose to give up. And giving up at 60 is one of the most painful tragedies you can bring upon yourself and on the world around you. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but I don't have the same physical energy I had at 30, and you're right. But here's the secret that changes everything. Energy follows purpose, not the other way around. When you find something that truly matters to you, when you connect with a deep reason to get out of bed in the morning, the energy shows up, naturally. I've seen 75-year-olds with more passion and drive than some 25-year-olds simply because they were living with purpose. Energy isn't just about age, it's about meaning. And here's one of the most beautiful paradoxes of turning 60. For the first time in your adult life, you don't have to care what other people think. You don't need your parents' approval. They're likely no longer here. You don't need to impress your boss. You may not even be part of the corporate world anymore. You don't need to prove you're a good provider because you've already done that for decades. That kind of freedom can feel scary, but it's also incredibly powerful. Let me tell you about Patricia, a woman I know who's 62. She had always dreamed of teaching, but life got in the way. She had to work in jobs that paid the bills to support her family. Teaching seemed impossible, but after retiring, she started volunteering a few hours a week at a local adult literacy center. Just a few hours. She didn't think much of it. What she discovered blew her away. She had a natural gift for helping people who had fallen through the cracks of the education system. Her students were adults who had given up on school, but they trusted her. Now, at 62, she runs a full program that's helped over 200 adults finish their basic education. And Patricia says she's never felt more professionally fulfilled in her entire life. That's the lesson. At 60, you no longer have to live the life others expected from you. You don't have to meet goals that were never truly yours. You finally have the chance to live your own life, authentically. But this takes courage. It means facing the hardest question. Who am I when I'm not trying to be what others expect me to be? That question can be terrifying because it might show you that for years, maybe even decades, you've been living someone else's life. But it's also the most freeing question you'll ever ask because it means there's still time to live your life, the one that belongs only to you. And let's be honest, the real life isn't the one that looks perfect on social media. It's the one that feels right in your heart. Now, some people will say, isn't it too late to change? Too late to start something new? Let me be crystal clear. It is never too late to become who you truly are. It is never too late to use the wisdom you've earned. It is never too late to contribute to the world in a way that matters. The difference between starting something at 25 and starting something at 60 is simple. At 60, you begin with clarity. You know your strengths. You know your limits. You know what matters and what doesn't. You have a level of perspective that only comes from living a full, complex, and sometimes painful life. You've been through enough to tell the difference between noise and truth. You don't get caught up in nonsense. And that gives you an edge that no 20-year-old can buy, fake, or fast track. So the real question is not, am I too old? The real question is, what am I finally ready to do now that no one's stopping me? You're not too late. You're not irrelevant. You're not behind. You're just now free enough, wise enough, and brave enough to begin. And the world is waiting. That's not a disadvantage. It's an extraordinary advantage. But here's the challenge. You have to be willing to be vulnerable again. You have to admit that there are still things you don't know. You have to be open to learning, to growing, to failing, and to getting back up. And that can feel especially hard when society tells you that by now you're supposed to have everything figured out. But here's the truth. No one has it all figured out. Not at 30, not at 60, not even at 80. Life is a constant process of growth and discovery. And at 60, you have the opportunity to begin the deepest kind of growth. The kind that comes not from inexperience, but from lived wisdom. Think about it. All your life, you've been collecting priceless knowledge. You've learned about human relationships, about work, about loss, about love, disappointment, hope. You've developed a deep understanding of human nature. You've seen patterns that repeat. You've learned what works and what doesn't. All of that is emotional and intellectual capital of incredible value. But if you don't use that capital, if you don't share it or apply it to create something meaningful, it goes to waste. And wasting a lifetime of wisdom is not just a personal loss. It's a loss for everyone who could benefit from it. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying you need to build a global company or write a best-selling novel or become a viral influencer. What I'm saying is this: recognize the incredible value of what you've learned and find a way to use it that gives you genuine satisfaction. That could be something as simple but powerful as being a more present, wise grandparent. Or it could be something as ambitious as launching a nonprofit to tackle a social issue you deeply care about. The important thing is that it's authentic to you, that it reflects who you really are. Because authenticity is the master key. At 60, there's no more time to pretend to be someone you're not. There's no more energy to wear masks that don't represent who you truly are. This is your golden moment to be fully, unapologetically yourself, to show the world who you are with all your imperfections and all your earned wisdom. And here's the beautiful part. When you live from your authenticity, when you act from your deepest truth, you start attracting the right people. You draw in those who value depth over appearance, those who appreciate wisdom more than novelty, those who seek real connection instead of surface-level attention. So if you're 60 or older, here's my message to you. Your story is not over. It may just be beginning its most meaningful chapter. You have decades of experience that can now become decades of deep contribution. You have the wisdom to make smarter decisions. You have the perspective to see what truly matters. And you have the freedom to act according to your deepest values. Don't let a youth-obsessed culture convince you that you're no longer relevant. Don't let a society that values speed over depth make you feel outdated. You have something the world desperately needs: lived wisdom, real perspective, the ability to see patterns that only time can reveal. Your life at 60 is not a sad epilogue. It's the beginning of your most honest, most powerful, and possibly most meaningful chapter yet. The real question is not whether it's too late to start. The question is, what are you going to do with everything you've learned? How are you going to use your wisdom to create something that truly matters? The world is waiting for your answer, and trust me, it needs to hear it more than you know.